Good evening and welcome to B News Sports Hub Super Bowl 52 preview, Eagles versus Patriots. My guests this evening are from the left, Danny Brothers, voice of Burlington High School football, class of 79.
79, sir.
Mike Espejo, Ohio State fan, graduate Burlington 1991.
1991, sir.
1991.
Wow.
And Robert Parris, BCAT staffer, man about town, sports reporter, crime reporter. I'm Phil Gallagher, class of 68. I hate to admit that. What we all share in common is that we are Patriot fanatics, and that's what we're here to talk about tonight. And let's open up with really the number one topic, I think, in all of this. In the pantheon of Boston sports heroes, where does Tom Brady fit? Is he eclipsing Bill Russell at this point? 16 years as a starter, 8th year in the Super Bowl. Go ahead, Dan.
Well, you see that you're the only guy in the set old enough to remember Bill Russell. It's going to be tough for the rest of us to compliment it. Yeah, I was the Larry Bird guy, and Larry, of course, came to Boston right when I was graduating high school, as you kindly referred to as 1979. But I think Bird has just surpassed him. Brady. He has just been. You couldn't write a book like this when he was drafted in the 6th round, 199th overall back in 2001. And as he tells Robert Kraft, and you heard it this week around it, the best decision Robert ever made. But you just couldn't write this. In your wildest imaginations, you couldn't sit there and say, okay, let me make a book here in a fantasy world. And 18 years later, he's still going strong.
Mike, your entire career as an adult has been revolved around Brady winning Super Bowls or being in Super Bowls. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that Brady's definitely at the top of the list. I think if you look at the sports climate in the era of the hard salary cap, what they've done is just remarkable. And the fact, as Danny was saying, the 6th round pick, and he always has that. Even after 5 Super Bowls and 5 championships, he hasn't lost that chip on his shoulder. And my favorite Tom Brady story, even though we're going to talk, was at Michigan. Was
Ohio State's nemesis,
right? When the equipment guy asked him, what's your favorite of all the titles, and he always says it's the next one.
The next one.
And even now, at 40 years old, at 5 rings and all the success, it's the next one. So yeah, just the longevity, the fact that it's the hard salary cap era, it's unmatched in probably sports history, I think.
Robert, what do you think?
I think he's the greatest of all time. Now, I'll tell you why. He's not like these other quarterbacks. Yes, I did this. No. He's generous. He knows what he's talking about. Well, I'm sure everybody knows what he's talking about. But he's really true to the sport. He doesn't screw around. He's true to the sport. If he loses, he explains why. If he wins, he's excited, but he doesn't all right. He explains why. But he's the greatest of all time, in my opinion. I love him.
Okay. Well,
You mean unlike the coach?
Well, just to remind everybody, Russell, I think, had 11 championships, 8 in a row, 2 as coach, and he did one feat which will never be, in my estimation, duplicated. He won 2 national championships at the University of San Francisco, immediately followed by an Olympic gold medal, and when he finished the Olympics, he immediately went to the Celtics and won a gold medal there. So that will never be duplicated.
Also an outstanding track athlete at USO, right?
Yeah,
University
exactly.
of San Francisco.
Exactly.
So
Russell,
USO, I think,
unfortunately.
Isn't USO like the, it's SFO.
SFO,
It's
the Dons.
Abbreviation, yeah.
The Dons. Yeah, we used to sneak in, and there'd be 5,000 or 6,000 at the Celtics and get in for a buck, or if you knew one of the ushers, you get in for nothing. I don't want to go back.
Give him the dollar.
Careful, Phil. We got the crime reporter.
Yeah, exactly.
Taking the money.
Okay. So Eagles versus.
So what do you think? What was your answer?
Well, he's clearly the greatest of all time. I mean, and I think Danny made the point, or you made the point about the salary cap era. If you look at, for instance, Montana, who prior to this is universally acknowledged as, one of the greats of all time, although he was replaced by Young, and Brady's not going to be replaced by Garoppolo.
Young only won 1 Super Bowl. I mean, you hear this Young thing all the time.
Yeah.
He won 1.
He won 1.
I mean, as much as you want to hear about Steve Young, he was great, belongs in the Hall of Fame. It's not like he went and won 4 afterwards.
Right.
So.
But you look back at Montana, Montana had the catch, Dwight Clark, John Taylor, the greatest receiver of all time, well, one of the top 5 receivers of all time, in Jerry Rice. And he also had a young Terrell Owens. We forget about that. Yeah. And he had Roger Craig, who I think was NFL MVP one year, or he was very close to NFL MVP. So,
and Freddie Solomon. How can you remember
Freddie Solomon? I mean, you know.
He had Rathman too.
As the fullback, as the blocking back. But you look at that team, and it's a team for the ages. There's no question about it. But you look at Brady, and Brady's got 8 teams. I mean, he's closing in, if not already surpassed, the most. I think Vinny Testaverde has it, the most different receivers that he's thrown a touchdown pass to. Something like 58, 71, some ridiculous number like that of different players. So, and if you look at the slot receiver, every guy who comes and plays with Brady as a slot receiver, Troy Brown, Wes Welker, Edelman, and Howard Amendola, all suddenly are superstars. As an anecdote, Amendola had to take a pay cut the last 2-3 years.
It's done so with a smile on his face, though.
Yeah, really. All right, look, Robert, let's start with you on Eagles versus Patriots matchup. Do the Eagles even belong there? I mean, you know, Wentz goes down, Carson Wentz goes down 5 games ago. They were the odds-on bet to win the NFC. He goes down. They come in. They beat an Atlanta team that apparently we ruined their psyche, and then they destroyed.
Amongst others.
Yeah, that's right. And they beat the Vikings handily last year. Is this? Are they a worthy opponent?
Well, in my opinion, Super Bowl 39. We have to go back to that. Donovan McNabb. Yeah, he was a good player, but again, I was young at that age, so I just saw the highlights yesterday, and that interception at the very end. That was a great interception. But let's talk about Nick Foles here. He's a good passer. I mean, the past game for the NFC Championship, he was perfect in it. But Minnesota, let's talk about Minnesota. They were all about themselves. We're gonna go to the Super Bowl. We're gonna go because it's their hometown. But Philadelphia, it's just another rematch. But I do see a little bit of a threat with Knowles, but not Foles, excuse me. But I don't know. I don't see them being one of those
See him as a
teams.
threat.
He thinks the Patriots are going to blow them out.
Well, wouldn't it be nice if we finally had a blowout? I mean,
What fun would that be?
their 2 losses were by 7 points, and their 5 combined wins are something in the order of like
3-3-4-4-6.
3-3-4-4-6.
In case you're wondering, you told us to study this stuff, Bill.
Just as an estimation,
As an
3-3-4-4-6. What do you think, Mike?
I do think they're a worthy opponent. Their defense is big. They're fast. They could put 4 number 1 picks on that defensive line, which really scares me in this matchup. The offense, they've got a lot of different talented receivers. No one's gonna jump off the page, but they're all solid. They played a tough road, I think, to get to where they were after Carson Wentz went down. And that defensive matchup, that defense is legit and it's for real. So they definitely are going to be a worthy opponent for the Pats.
So what about the Pats? Well, we'll talk about that in a second. Go ahead, Dan.
I think this is the ultimate wild card. Okay, I think the Patriots could blow them out, or the Patriots could get blown out. I just don't understand what Philadelphia is. You start the defense. Yeah, they had a lot of names up front. They had less sacks than the Patriots did this year. Okay, they did 36 sacks this year. The Pats had 38 or something like that. You know, and when I sat there and saw it, they weren't in the top 10. And I'm reading about Curry and I'm reading about Fletcher Cox and Derek Barnett and
Jones, not Jones.
Chris Long.
Chris Long.
You know,
yeah.
The one thing they do possess is a depth of that defensive line. And if you remember last year, the Patriots just wore those guys from Atlanta down.
Yeah.
And Dan Quinn, the next mastermind out of the Pete Carroll mold, had no answer for them.
Yeah. But don't forget they played 94 plays on the defensive line last year.
But I think their linebackers, they lost Hicks early in the season, and that kid was a perennial All-Pro. And I think what's going to happen, I think the running backs are going to have a big matchup plus. And if you look at their corners, they start Jalen Mills and Ronald Darby. Ronald Darby, the Patriots have had some great days at Ronald Darby's expense when he's up in Buffalo, I mean, and how can a team like Buffalo, who's got no talent, trade Darby and they traded Watkins earlier? Yeah. So, I mean, it's not like we're getting
Marcel Darius,
last week, who we saw last week. So it's not like we're getting those guys there. But, I mean, they're good. But the other wild card comes down to Foles. I mean, are you going to get Nick Foles, who who couldn't complete a pass over 10 yards against Atlanta, or you're going to get the one who, and as you had said about Minnesota, that was just an awful performance. I mean, how guys can get that wide open. I could have probably made those passes.
Well, they had that fumble recovery for a 6. It was pick six.
It was a pick six.
It was an interception.
Yeah, that always takes
came
the
across
steam.
the field, and plus, you know what? You sit there, and actually, we'll get into this a little later. We're talking about coaching. Go ahead.
Well, I'm in the blowout category for a number of reasons. First of all, we faced a pretty good front against the Titans. Very good front, as a matter of fact. And they get very little pressure on Brady. I mean, they sacked him a couple of times, but you're facing one of the top teams in the NFL. You'd expect that. Fowler, I think, was the power rusher in the end who did a nice job. But the bottom line here is this is a Schwartz defense, former Detroit head coach. He was up in Buffalo. We faced him 7 times, and we're 5-2, and the other loss but one of the losses was a meaningless end of season, second stringer game against Buffalo. And I think the key here is that he doesn't rush, he doesn't blitz, which is a good thing because if you blitz Brady, you know what's going to happen. And the secondary is not anywhere near as effective as Jacksonville's. And I think even the Titans had a stronger secondary than Philadelphia has. So I'm in the blowout category. I'm thinking 35-14.
You got to hold that for the end, though.
Yeah,
you got to hold that.
Oh yeah, I got to hold that.
He's going to change.
Spoiler alert.
Spoiler alert. We're doing it in the predictions at the end. Yeah. All right. Well, let's start now. Go this way and talk about what formations does Belichick open up with?
Oh, I think he's going to come out like he always does. He's the most vanilla coach in the league in the first 15 minutes of the game. And trivia spoiler alert here, number 2 is hard to believe that in 7 previous Super Bowls, the Patriots have not scored a point in the first quarter.
Never scored a point.
Never scored a point.
Unbelievable.
I mean, and you're talking, they were one of the most proficient teams this year, regular season and even postseason. They scoring on their first drive. But I think they'll come out. They're going to play the game they normally play, and they're going to punt the ball maybe a couple times. You'll see a lot of Dion Lewis. See if that gets through. You'll see the big guy there, 46, Devlin. He'll be on the field every so often, and then all of a sudden things will start to change. To me, the big thing I think it was last week and against the Titans is when they go no huddle. Brady becomes the conductor of the orchestra. And you see teams trying to substitute, and they're not able to. And next thing you know, you got a free play. The flag's down for 12 men in the field. And one game, they had 15 men on the field. Okay, so I think when they go to something like that.
And then they come out with a clock. They ran the clock out after a timeout. They got to
exactly. We'll get into the stupidity of coaching, I'm sure, a little later on, because we have a book to write on that. But I think what you'll see is the typical Patriots. They'll try to find the matchups and kind of say, okay, we're going to change this, and all of a sudden the next series down, and you'll see James White or you'll see Burkhead. You'll see different things, and that's just to sit there and kind of see what Schwartz is going to do to respond to them, and I think lo and behold, they wear them down.
Well, what do you think? Might they come out with a strong package at 21 where they have Devlin and heavy tight ends, and they try to run on the left side? They're going to run who's the left side? The left side is Tooney, Soda, with Shaq Mason pulling, and Devlin the lead block.
Yeah, and the key one is, not to jump in on Mike here, but the key one is to have Gronk back.
Yeah.
Because, what people see is they see this big guy running down the field, but the blocking that he does. And Dwayne Allen did a really good job last week when he came in.
Yeah, on
blocking
that 18-yard
edge. Yeah.
That 18-yard Lewis run.
Yeah.
Did a double block, chipped the end, then blew up the linebacker.
Yeah.
What do you think? 21, or does he spread them out and go no huddle?
I think Danny absolutely nailed it. I think at first you're going to see vanilla. You're going to see the pro set, the 21, the normal, try and run the ball. I think that first quarter in the Super Bowl is just feeling each other out. The Pats haven't seen the Eagles this year. It's a new opponent. They want to see how they react to this, or a shift there, a shift here. But I think to beat the Eagles, they're going to have to go no huddle, spread, tempo. That's where Tom is at his best. And I think that will be twofold because it'll get them in a rhythm. You've seen the offense, it always seems to do better when they're in rhythm and Tom can just pick apart the field. But it'll also minimize the opportunity for Philly to substitute. Their depth is in that defensive line. And when the Patriots lost Super Bowls, the key to beating the Patriots is getting that pressure up the middle. And I think Philly's going to want to rotate those guys with that depth, keep it fresh, keep it coming. And the way to thwart that is just spread them out, 5 wide and a lot of action with the backs out of the backfield.
Robert?
Well, I agree with Dan and Mike, but I'm just going to say this right now. They have one trick play up their sleeves. I just have that feeling. The first play they're going to do is a run. Now, I know in the Super Bowl, they're probably they're going to pass, they're going to pass. Let's do a nice little run-off tackle. Don't run up the middle because that's always going to be a wall right there. You can't go up the middle because it's going to be a wall. Go off tackle. Maybe we'll do a little end around with Cooks or Amendola or going this way or that way. Yeah, jet sweep. But I have a feeling that I'm not gonna say. I'll say it. The first play, it's gonna be a
trick play, huh?
Trick play. You're gonna do a run, throw it back to Brady, wide open, whoop, down the field. That's what's gonna happen.
Well, how about started?
How about a jet sweep with the Amendola throwing to Cooks?
Oh
jet
boy,
sweep.
here we go.
Wide receiver flea flicker. That's
Flea
what they
flicker.
call that.
I'll take that as a prop bet in the first quarter. Okay.
All right, so I'm in the same kind of camp. We know he's going to mix it up, but I think that a key here is to wear out that defensive line. We don't want to get any 3rd and longs, although having Chris Long in there, I think, he only plays 32, 34 snaps. So, I mean, he gives him a breather, but, he's going to be up against Soder. I don't think that's a good matchup for Philadelphia. So I think that we're going to run left. Going to run left early with the 21 package. See if they can set up the run, which will then make Philadelphia susceptible to Brady's play action, and we know he's the best play action quarterback in football. So I think that's going to be the name of the game. And then depending on what the score is at halftime and what condition Philly is in, because the other thing we know from all the Super Bowls we've watched, that our team is always the superior condition team. We saw that last week against Jacksonville in the 4th quarter. Virtually no pass rush. Those guys were gassed. Although they did, for whatever reason, they left press coverage in the defensive backs and they went to Tampa 2, which just was like turkey dinner
10-yard
for Brady.
cushions.
All right, let's go to defense.
Well, one thing I was going to add to your comment is that the other thing you do if you can run the ball, you always run the ball at the rushers, okay? Because it changes their game. And with Barnett and Curry and Cox, if you in Long even as well. If you remember last year in the Super Bowl, if you watched that Do Your Job special, Long was out on running downs. Right. They brought him in as a speed rusher. He did line up on the left side last weekend, which would put him against Cameron Fleming, which I think would give all of us Patriot fans some agita. But in that regard there, that's the important thing. You can run the ball. You take the edge rushers. They're not sitting back saying, "Oh, here I go, here I go, here I go." So that's the importance of doing that.
I think if they run the ball, the game, like you said, Phil, is going to be a blowout. I think it's going to be very hard to run on this team. If they can run the ball with any effectiveness early, it's going to be lights out.
Well, to Robert's point, though, up the middle, remember what they did against who was the first team they played? The Titans.
Tennessee.
Yeah, I mean, they ran it right straight up the gut with Lewis, with a 5'8", 195-pound halfback, ripping up 7-8 yard carries.
And you know who's got some major attitude? Is David Andrews in the middle.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it was Jacksonville last week when end of the game, it's victory formation. A couple of those guys wanted to push and shove and he's the first one in somebody's face like, no, that's not going to happen here.
Can do.
You're not getting to him because you're going to come through me, and I don't care what you do to me because I can handle it. So,
Mike, start on the defense.
Well, I want to touch on one more thing since we're on this topic. If we're going to run the ball, I think in the history of the 15, 16, 17-year run, I think this is the best stable of running backs we've had going into a Super Bowl. I think they're deep. Dion Lewis, James White, they can all run, they can all catch. Burkhead has been unbelievable. And
Gillislee can't even get on the roster.
Yeah,
we traded for this guy.
And he's a good running back. He led the league in the yards per carry
last year?
He can't
year.
even get on the field. So
Can't get on the field.
if our hope is to run the ball, and I mean we have the best stable running backs I've seen in the Belichick-Brady era.
Well, it's funny because you sit there and you talk about that, and they all bring a different skill set, but they're all the same.
All the same.
Last week it was White on a touchdown run off tackle of all places. It was, and I mean those games towards the end, and even I'm trying to remember about Tennessee, where they dressed 3 wide receivers. That's unheard of in the National Football League. And why? Because you can take White and send them out. You can take Burkhead and send them out. You can take Lewis and send them out. So it becomes an entirely different
And you
environment.
can take Devlin and send him out.
And you can take
Did you know
Devlin
that
and send him
last
out.
week?
That's true. He was
split
wide
him out.
left.
And they can all catch. You said, but the same, they can all catch.
They all can catch. And the amazing part is I watch teams that when they do stuff like that, and you'll see Gronk split out, they don't change. If you look back to the Super Bowl in '49, the key play was when Gronk was on KJ Wright, I think it was, and you just knew Brady kind of looked over like,
Let me just toss that right over there.
alert, alert, Romeo, hey, we're going to go right. We're going to throw that big guy over there by the linebacker. But it's just, I mean, they can do so many things with them. I think it's a great point.
Romo is great. He had a great season as an announcer. But
Excellent. He was outstanding.
He was outstanding,
So
but he
fun.
had one thing on the internet he was explaining why Brady is great, and he showed up. They're at about the 10-yard line, and Romo's announcing and diagnosing the play, and he's saying, "Oh, okay, Brady's changing the play. He wants Amendola wide right," and Amendola goes, "Oh, Amendola needs further direction." He goes, "Oh, okay, let's run a Y along the back." Next thing you know, it's exactly the same play.
Yeah, well, they study like the coaches do.
One more anecdote on the offense before we move on. Tom Brady, when he throws 50 passes, is 19 wins and 19 losses.
Yeah.
And I think he's something like 12-4 in the playoffs. So he's 19-9 in his career. The next closest player to him in the NFL history who's thrown 50 passes is Drew Brees, who's 5-14. And the next one is Peyton Manning, who's 4-13.
Oh,
So-
love those. Love that last one.
Yeah, right.
4-13 out of that
4-13.
fraud.
So I'm thinking to myself, hey, why bother? Don't even run the ball. Just throw it. Get out there, 5 wide, hurry up. Just throw the ball back and
Threw over
forth.
50 last year, right?
Oh, in that game?
Yeah.
It
it
was
was
50.
50.
What was
54
50
maybe?
54 for 74, 54
who knows
for
what it
76.
was.
Some ridiculous thing. Well, remember they
ran
ran
94
plays.
plays. Yeah.
94 plays.
Just totally blew them out of the water.
All right, defensively, this was the worst team in the NFL, the 27th or 28th team in the NFL in the beginning of the season, first 5 games. I think they were 2-2. They lost the Kansas City game. They lost the Carolina game. 2-2.
They won against Kansas City.
No, they lost.
No,
on
they
Kansas
lost.
City
They lost.
on opening
Oh,
night.
Philadelphia.
Mike was there. Mike
I
called
thought
him work the next
Philadelphia.
day.
yeah.
The undefeated season went down the tubes on the
Right
first
there,
night.
that's right. Well, Belichick probably planned that. Let's stop all this nonsensical talk. Every year's a new year.
We're not going to Canton quite yet.
That's right. That's right. So they were horrible against the run. Gilmore was having a problem fitting in. Butler in a contract year didn't seem to have quite the magic. Although, let's face it, the kids had a solid year. We're in the Super Bowl, so all of that disparaging talk about Butler, we can forget about that.
We could have a long discussion about that.
Yes. So what do you think defensively? What do we do here?
Every year we go through this. Amazing, though, that in 2016, they were 3-1 without Tom Brady. And this year, Brady comes back and they were 2-2.
Oh, don't trade Jimmy Garoppolo.
But I think that it's similar to the offense. It's that vanilla plan. You look at last week and that guy number 30, Jarius Grant or whatever his name was. I mean, he wasn't being covered. You didn't hear of him in the second half. Now it helped that Doug Marrone and the Jacksonville Jaguars decided to put it in neutral and say, let's just ride this to the finish line. But they do the same thing. They kind of feel you out. The fun part about this week is that what the Patriots like to do is take away that one element. Last week with Fournette's an exact example. Right. He had 70 yards
And the
a
week
touchdown.
before, Henry had 28
week before,
yards.
Henry. But as much as Fournette, is that he didn't have 150 and 3 touchdowns like they needed him to win. Philadelphia, I don't think they have that one guy you've got to take out. Right. Their receivers they're good, but they're ordinary. Aguilar, Jeffries, and Torrey Smith. Right. Anybody could have had Torrey Smith 2 years ago.
Right.
Okay.
Right. From the Ravens, right?
From the Ravens and
Niners.
And the Niners after that.
Right.
So that's it. The guy who scares me on the team is Ertz.
Yeah.
Right? Selleck is the guy who's not good. Ertz is the guy who's good. Ertz is pretty good. I mean, I think he'd look great in this offense in New England. So he's a guy. But the running backs, when the running backs are in the game, Ajayi only had 10 receptions this year.
Right.
But Garrett Blunt had his customary 8.
Right.
And the Clemens guy, who's their third down back, Didn't have anything, had another dozen or so. So they
Well,
don't throw
neither
the bat.
Blount or
Ajayi.
Ajayi, neither one of them are mysteries to us. I mean,
No.
Blount
Yep.
ran for us for 3 years, and Ajayi we played, I think, 4 times.
Yeah, I mean, the Clement kid had 10 receptions. So the top 3 guys had 28 receptions. James White had that in 3 weeks in one stretch of the season.
50% of them in the Super Bowl last year.
So if their running backs are in the game, they're going to probably run the ball. And Minnesota's defense last week is not going to tell you anything because that was just non-existent to have 3 plays over 40 yards. And if something tells me that the Patriots had some breakdowns this year, they've gotten convincingly better. You mentioned Gilmore. We had a little communication problem here early in the season, and as things wound down, he certainly was better. And I think you saw last week he made the big play. He had a bunch of tackles last week, although he did kind of stumble and fall asleep on that one pass to that Underwood guy down the sideline towards the end. But I think the Patriots defense matches up well with this crew here.
Well, Belichick always says stats are for losers, and apparently it played out that way in the Vikings game because that allegedly was the number 1 defense in all of the NFL, and Philadelphia just treated them. They were mean to them. They were mean. So what do you think we do defensively?
I think it's really important to get the defense off to a great start. Foles, I was looking at the games since he started after Wentz, and they're really not that impressive. He hasn't been that great, except for last week in the NFC Championship game. And I think that was a combination of the turnover, the pick 6, and they just got on a roll. But I think it's very important. It's funny, the defense started out historically bad in that first 4 weeks, and around here it was Panicville, and it seems like every year we see it. They start out rough, and then they pull it together, and then down the stretch they're nails. I think Gilmore has been unbelievable, and this season I think the defense has actually carried the team in the past, like the last third of the season. So I think it's really important. The secondary is our strength, obviously, and I think it's important to get out to a good start and lock them down quickly to get Foles to have some pressure on him to see how he reacts to the grand stage, how he reacts to actually maybe even being behind, and to get that opening first quarter touchdown would be just huge.
That would be beautiful.
I think the defense has got to clamp down early, and they got to do it right away. I know we're known for adjustments, and we're bend don't break. We're going to see them march down the field, but it's really important to get out to a strong start.
What do you think, Robin? We're going to get a pass rush here?
Well, what I want to see from the Patriots, but it really doesn't work out, I want to see a lot of blitz. Now,
Go ahead.
Do you think that you should call Bill? We should get Bill on the phone.
Get Bill on the phone. Yeah. Robin says we should blitz. Go ahead. I'm with you on this. Go ahead.
Why? Because, there's good and bad. The good thing is, if you got the quarterback, that's great. You sacked him. But what if he doesn't have football? That's a bad blitzing. There's always going to be that one player that's going to be not covered. Now, if you're going to blitz, you got to cover him. Cover him like Ronnie Harrison. Keep covering. You got to cover them really close.
Press quick.
The Patriots defense is phenomenal. I agree with Mike and Dan with that. But what I don't like to see is they play too far away. And I don't like that. I like them close up, really cover them up, and they don't really do that.
Yeah, but remember the chunk plays they were getting on us in the passing game in the first 5 games of the year. They gave up the most 40-yard plus catches in the game. So, but I think press will work here early, and I agree with Robert, particularly blitzing Foles. Foles has got. I don't know what his stats are. I think he's got 56 total games. He's got about 59 touchdown passes and 29 interceptions. He's also got a huge
and if you take away 27 and 3 that first year he played, the 27 touchdowns and 3 interceptions.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
That number really skewers on the back end of the interception list.
Actually, I have to go to my cheat sheet.
There you go. See, Phil got cheat sheets too.
Get those in exact numbers. Foles' career, 61 TDs.
Minus 27 is 24.
Right.
Yep.
29 interceptions.
Minus 3 is 26.
26.
So it's 24 and 26 outside that great season he had back in 2013.
Which was for Philadelphia.
Correct.
Then he played for Kansas City, and a backup role. He was injured that year.
Was it with the Rams too?
Rams,
Yes, he went to the Rams.
And then came back.
Everybody goes and plays with the Rams.
But listen to this. In those 49 career games, 29 fumbles.
Yeah. Listen, it's definitely...
And a quarterback rating of 87.
Yeah, it's just for your case. It's what I said earlier. What Nick Foles are you going to get? Nobody knows.
Really. So, the defensive line has been solid the last 10 games. I mean, Lawrence Guy may turn out to be, along with Gilmore, Lawrence Guy may be one of the key additions to the club this year. They moved him off the edge. Well, they mix him up.
Yeah.
But he's been playing predominantly a defensive tackle with that kid, another undrafted free agent from Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt. We get a defensive tackle from Vanderbilt. Cut it out. So there's Adam Butler, Lawrence Guy.
Adam Butler the second, isn't that what it says?
Yeah,
Does it say two on the back?
Two. And then Flowers is a beast. We know that.
Yeah.
You can play him inside. You can play him outside. You can play him in coverage. And Dietrich Wise, who we thought was going to be the second rookie on the edge, and now who's the one that went out with the knee injury, the first round pick?
Oh, Malcolm Brown.
No, Malcolm's a defensive tackle.
Okay.
The edge, the first round pick for this year. He got hurt in training camp, got a knee injury.
Oh, yeah, the Rivers kid.
Derek
Out
Rivers.
of San Jose or some one of those odd colleges.
Derek
they think
Rivers.
he's going to be a good one. Big time speed, speed off that edge.
So I think maybe a blitz here and there, but the run has to be shut down. You have to force Foles to pass the ball at least 30, 35 times. And the key to that is going to be Malcolm Brown, Adam Butler. I don't know, is Branch even going to dress?
Who knows? I mean, they've been kind of stringing him along the whole time.
Well, I think he's been injured because
He
last
has
year.
been. He has been.
Yeah, last year he was a dominant force in the middle of the line.
But you remember the Patriots scheme is the guys in the middle. Their job is just to clog things up.
Smash
And
everything
anything
up.
else they do is a big plus. I'm kind of feeling bad, Phil. You and I are kind of the old guys here on this set. You're not representing the old people. What about James Harrison?
Well, I was just going to bring that up. All right, so we needed the edge was a disaster during the beginning of the year. Another weakness. Chunk plays downfield. Chunk plays on the edge. Wise, Marquise Flowers.
Yep.
The other kid,
Landon Roberts. Kyle Van Noy.
Keep going.
David Harris.
David
Does David
Harris,
Harris
although
play
he
in this
didn't even
game?
play.
Yeah, he's been a healthy scratch a lot of times.
Well, he
Does
has.
he play this week? I mean, that's a big thing.
Willie.
My guess is no.
No, my guess too. But then the question becomes, was the Harrison pickup good? Has he been a factor? Does he get 30 snaps in the Super Bowl?
Yes. Any other questions?
Yes.
Yes.
Not good. It was great. What a great pickup. Perfectly timed. Yeah, and he's going to get 25, 30 snaps easily. He set that edge. He's a big hulking. He's so tough to move. He's been great.
But he's so small when you compare him to the rest of these guys. I saw him lining up against a defensive tackle. He's 6 feet 265.
Yeah.
For an edge player, although he's an outside linebacker, but they move him off the edge. For an edge player, that's kind of small.
Yeah, but you know what? His game isn't the speed. The other thing about edge is he's playing with an edge. Okay? He asked for something in Pittsburgh. They didn't give it to him. He asked for some playing time.
They gave him nothing.
They gave him the money. At some point in time, as Mo Vaughn used to say, it's not about the money. Okay? So now he's got something to prove. As he says, he's happy to play on a team with somebody older than him on it, and Tom Brady. The rush that he came off of yesterday, I said Mike and I were going to show Rob what a trap block was. The other day, Harrison came in, and one of the techniques was he grabbed the guy's arm and yanked it down.
And that's the Derrick Henry play, right?
Exactly.
Where he dragged him down with one hand, too.
And
he
then
takes the trap blocker down, and then he grabs Derrick Henry with one arm.
But I was talking, in the Jacksonville game, he grabbed the tackle's arm, pulled it down. That's when he had the strip sack.
Oh, okay.
Which Bortles recovered and set up that fourth down play, which we know how that ended.
Right, we know how
and the
that-
whole thing there. But yeah, I think he's got something to prove, and half an hour after the game yesterday, he's in the locker room pumping out weights. Now we can talk for an hour about some of his off the field indiscretions, but his job is to perform on the field, and it seemed to have worked out pretty well.
Well, he's been a pretty good citizen the last decade or so. He had some early problems, but there's a great internet piece on him and the participation trophy about how his children aren't getting any.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Trophy.
He's the guy in the commercial. Champ.
Yeah, that's right. Exactly. All right, let's move on to key matchups.
Key matchups.
Key, man. We know Brady.
I have the ultimate one.
All right,
and
go
it's
ahead.
the one that we talk about every single week. Bill Belichick versus Doug Peterson. Okay, is that his name, Doug Peterson?
Doug Peterson, yeah.
And first of all, it's P-E-D-E-R-S-O-N.
Oh, there's some of those. That might be the Swedish
Not
spelling.
like Peterson family in Burlington with the S-O-N. But I mean, it's just every single year. It starts at the opening kickoff, okay? And several years ago, Bill decided to start deferring. All right, worked out pretty well for them. At the time, I think it was probably back in the early 2000s, they were a defensive dominant team with young man Rodney Harrison and Brewski and McGinnis and Law. Well, now everybody has to do it because Bill does it.
Bill does it.
And I have no idea. And if Philadelphia wins a toss and defers, I think they're playing right into the Patriots' hand.
Patriots' hand.
Why would you give the great, and I say it every week on Twitter and Facebook, why would you give the greatest football player to ever play this game the ball to start a game?
Well, in an extra possession.
The only time that it worked was in that second Super Bowl against the Giants when Brady threw from the end zone, airmailed it, looked like a Phil Gallagher pass,
Yeah,
or Ralph
exactly.
D'Agostino pass.
Right.
And he airmailed it, and it was called for the safety.
That was
okay. That's the only time.
Right.
And then, of course, the Giants hit the ball on a 9 or 11-minute drive, and
Well, that was the safety because it was intentional grounding.
Correct, in the end zone.
Yeah, but how can you have an intentional grounding when you throw the ball down the middle of the field? That's
Because the
absurd.
rules of grounding are the rules of grounding. You have to have somebody in the area, the whole 9 yards.
Yeah. And now your point to coaching. Mm-hmm. Last week's game, minute and 31 seconds left to go in the first half, and Jacksonville kneels on the ball.
Oh, it was 55, I think it was.
Oh, was it 55?
And they had 2 timeouts.
2 timeouts, 55.
But they didn't use a timeout when the Patriots had the ball going down to score.
Right. That's
So-
what the minute and 31 was.
And that's exactly my point, Phil, is that how will Doug Peterson react? The last time Doug Peterson was in Foxborough for a playoff game, and I know they're not playing in Foxborough, was the year they had the Kansas City team, and they went on a 6-minute drive with 7.5 minutes left in the game to pull the AFC divisional round game to a 7-point margin. Onside kick recovered. They had used all their timeouts. 2 kneel downs. Patriots go to the next round. So again, what will Doug Peterson do? Will he get caught up in the Belichick thing? Who knows? But there's going to be decisions they have to make during the game. We sit there and watch every week. Coach will throw the red flag out, the challenge flag. And we're watching on TV saying, and the classic one was Dan Quinn last year, who threw it because he had to throw it before the 2-minute warning. So he throws it out there, and he loses that timeout, which they could have used in the last drive there. And Andy Reid was great for using all his timeouts at bad spots.
Well, look at the coaching. Look, Andy Reid.
Great coach.
Great coach, except
Games
he's
1
a
through
loser.
18.
Yeah, right, that's right.
Game
How
18
about
not good.
Kareem Hunt gets the ball 6 times in the second half?
Yeah.
Last year, who's the offensive coordinator for Atlanta?
Oh, Kyle Shanahan.
Kyle Shanahan.
Stops running the football.
Stops right, but they're on the 35-yard line. They're within 5-6 yards of a
Field goal.
Of a field goal.
Yeah.
And they call a pass. Mm-hmm. They call a pass.
2 of them.
2 of them. Well, unfortunately,
first-
the next one it was a holding call.
Yeah.
The matchup.
The key match for me, and not to sound like a broken record, is that Philly defensive line. The way to beat the Patriots in the Super Bowl we've seen is to get pressure up the middle, get Brady off the spot, get him uncomfortable. And I think if the Patriots can neutralize that defensive line, and even though they don't have many sacks, they just seem to do well run stopping, getting pressure. If they can neutralize that offensive line and Brady has the time to throw, it's going to be
8th or 9th in the league in sacks, by the way. I don't know if you knew that.
8th or 9th.
8th or 9th. Jacksonville had 56, but they had like 20.
10 against the Texans and another.
It was like 20.
Colts. Yeah.
Yeah, it was like 22 in their own in 4 games.
Right. But one thing I will say about Jacksonville is those linebackers, our screen game
those guys are beasts.
were beasts. I mean,
Fast, too.
Oh,
yeah, but
they ran like Usain Bolt.
Yeah. Oh, what's his name? Lewis in the flat. We ran that play 3 or 4 times.
Bang.
Nothing. That kid.
You're going to have that advantage this week, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll have that advantage.
The Jack kid is just a beast.
He was.
He's but you know what happened at the end?
And that wasn't a fumble by Lewis, by the way.
You know what? Funny you should bring up. I agree with you. The question is that when he was down,
He's got his hand on the ball.
His hand on the ball on his hip,
And he's on his back.
How
can that not be?
I agree with you. That's the first thing I said when I saw it.
How can that not be down by
It
contact?
was down. I'm sorry to intervene, but it was down. These refs are like, oh, these refs, they're against us.
fairness-
Yeah, but don't
officials,
forget, we had 6 penalties against them, and they only have 1 against us. It must have been the refs.
penalties.
And the refs congratulated Brady first.
But you know what? Did you see the start of the game? If you saw the start of the game, first possession by Jacksonville, Clay Bleekman. By the way, Patriots were 2-4 with Bleekman as an official. The last time they had him was that Carolina debacle 4 years ago. when
Gronk
Gronk was
touchdown.
interfered to by Luke Kuechly in the end
the
zone,
end zone,
and
oh.
Brady chased him off the field. But the first series of play they came out, they had an end zone camera. They were going through their little thing with CBS with their sponsors, and it showed Clay Bleepman walking up. He tapped Bortles on the shoulder, shook his hand, tapped him on the shoulder again, and then put the ball into play. So, let's stop with that stuff there.
Nonsense.
I mean, quarterbacks and referees, the White Hats have a special relationship because the referee communicates with them all the time, and the referee's lone responsibility is the quarterback. The only guy who calls roughing the passer is the guy with the white hat, unless it's down the field.
All right. What do you think?
Got off track. What were we talking about?
Matchup. We get a little
That happens
tangent
with us
there.
here, you know.
Matchups.
Yeah, I agree with Mike. Brady needs to throw the ball quickly because his defense is going to come after him. Sorry to say that, but they're going to come after him. Throw the ball to
Bring it on.
Lewis, White, throw to either of them. But Brady and Gronk, that's like a big matchup. I'm sure they're going to double cover him, but you got to throw to Gronk. If he's opened, great, throw to him, but they're going to come after Brady. And
He's always open.
Yeah.
Okay. How about
Throw
individual matchups?
Individual matchups.
Keys to the game.
Nick Foles versus Matt Patricia. You know that what he sees in the first quarter, he's not going to see in the fourth quarter. This is Patricia's big audition on the open market. He's going to Detroit. This is kind of a redux of either 2004 or 2003 when both Weiss and Crennel left. And in Belichick, you saw his enthusiasm last week, and you saw Patricia picked up. Now, I happen to have the opportunity to do some work, and I see Patricia once in a while over the last 3 or 4 years working the Super Bowl games for the high school down in Gillette. One of the nicest guys you ever met.
He's no rocket scientist. Oh, yes,
he is. He comes out every year and makes sure he spends about a half an hour watching the games, and he doesn't have to do that, but he does. And he's but I think that Foles, if they can confuse him early, it might get real ugly for Philadelphia. I think that the advantage he had last week was that he played from ahead. Okay, things went real well for them after that interception that Keenum threw, that the guy returned for a touchdown. I think it was Anderson, number 21, where he cut across the field. But that's important. And, one other thing I'm going to say about the coaching matchup is you sit there and you watch that film last year, Do Your Job, which I think is one of the greatest things I've ever watched in New England Patriot porn, without a single doubt.
And the book Life of a Coach is just
It is the same way, but you sit there and I saw it happen last week, and when it happened, I said the game was over. Last year, 28-9, third quarter, Gostkowski had just missed the extra point on the earlier touchdown. 4th down and 5, and of course, what are we all saying at home? Oh, you got to go for it. You're down by 17, whatever number of points, 9 minus 28, 19 points. You got to go for it. Not Belichick. He kicks it. He knows exactly how many possessions are left in the game based on an average game. So he kicks the field goal, and why they do it, we heard on the tape. They're still within 2 scores.
2 scores.
6-2, 6-2. Now, they have to be perfect,
Right.
but it played out that way. Last week,
Three 2-point conversion plays.
Correct.
First time all season.
That's right.
They have 3 in the playbook.
That's right. So last week, 24-7, third quarter. Vikings drive the ball down. They get to the 9-yard line. 4th and goal. Well, here comes the coaching aspect, and this is where decisions are made. You kick the field goal, you're back to within 14. You're back to a 2-score game. You're down 17. They go for it. It's the one the guy thought he caught. They called a touchdown. He didn't catch. Incomplete. Guess what? Back the bus in, get on the bus, it's
all over.
Because they did not have enough time, and then they hit the flea flicker, that stupid flea flicker where some guy's open 45 yards down the field, touchdown, game's over. But that's the type of thing that happens in a game like that.
I think if you want individual matchups, you got to go Foles against the New England secondary. This is probably going to be the best secondary he's faced all year with Gilmore and Butler. Gilmore has been lights out the last 6 weeks, and I think he's going to try and attack Butler. And as people have learned, that's not usually.
Not always a good thing.
Last week it wasn't too bad, though.
Yeah, but he only gave up 5 catches against the.
I know, it seemed like it was 55 catches.
Yeah, but 5 catches for 68 yards, I think.
He also gives them up early. They give him up early, and then they change things up when they clamp things down. So
it's Foles, and I think that leads to the turnover battle's huge. I think Philadelphia's 2 losses, maybe all 3. I'd have to double check that. They won the turnover battle, but they had, so it's all about turnovers, just like in any football game. And I think Foles against that secondary, I think we're going to see a turnover. I think they're going to get him for a pick. So,
Robert, individuals?
Tom
matchups.
Brady versus everyone in that stadium.
Well, I like our chances. Okay.
I'll take that.
Based on history. Well, the individual matchup I like with player against player is Huvachi or Huvaleli. I can't pronounce his name. The left tackle, who was the third stringer, I guess.
Oh, yeah. I got it here, Phil. Somewhere
What's
I know
his name?
I do.
Tell me.
Give me a second. Let me
On the
find it.
back page.
Huvaleli.
Yeah. He took Jason Peters' spot.
He took Peters' spot, so he's the second. He's the second tackle. He's been having
Here we
problems.
go. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, we're gonna pass this around. It's
Take a guess.
Halapulavayati Vatai. Like that.
Halavuliali Fatai. Okay, so he's going to go up against.
Doesn't matter who.
No, it doesn't. But in this case, it's even worse for him because he's going to get Flowers on the edge, and on a passing down, he's going to get Harrison on the in the linebacker spot, or vice versa, or some combination of that. Speed rushers, power rusher on the right side. So that's going to be a problem for Philadelphia. And what's even worse for Foles, unfortunately for him, is that this is his blind side. You know, you always want that left tackle to be a stud. I mean, look at Soder. And who's the bearded guy we had before him?
Matt Light.
Matt Light.
Sebastian Vollmer wasn't too bad either on the other side.
No, Vollmer was a great tackle. So I think that this is going to be a weak spot that we're going to exploit, either with the two main players, or even a corner side blitz or a safety blitz from that side to get Foles to have happy feet.
Yeah.
Nothing worse than a quarterback having happy feet.
You saw Butler last week. 3 times he came off that right side, Bortles' blind side.
Yeah.
Twice he got in pretty good. The third time I don't know what he did the third time.
Yeah. Well,
Here I am back on Butler again.
Yeah, but the problem is if you sell out on that play and they pick it up, like Brady often does with his running back, then you're naked, particularly with somebody who's going to throw it in 2.3 seconds.
Yep.
They pick up that cornerback blitz, forget about it. Now, one last thing. We've only got a few minutes. We want to talk about special teams, and then we'll do predictions, okay? When they brought the 25-yard touchback in, everybody in the league is kicking the ball through the end zone. Yeah, they're starting the 25. No danger of a return. What does Belichick do? He's got Gostkowski kicking the ball, pooch kickoffs, essentially, down to the 3 or 4 yard line. And how many times this year have we seen Slater or Batamosi or Marquise Flowers?
Jones.
Who's
hurt, right?
Jones is hurt, I think, yeah.
And Ebner before he got hurt, too.
And Ebner. I mean, these special teams guys, how many times have we seen them? And it happened
They
in the
coach it.
Jacksonville. But why doesn't everybody do it? Come on, if it's
back
obvious
my
to an old
Belichick
guy sitting in
versus
Burlington.
Peterson.
Yeah.
Back to Belichick versus Peterson. They don't think.
If an old Burlington guy eating chips in his living room, can diagnose that play, I don't know why
But Phil, my
these
question
guys
to you
can't.
is, not only do they kick it short of the goal line, they also kick it over in that right-hand corner. So now the field gets smaller.
He crunches it down.
Because,
and Slater is just... that game was on the line last week. They scored, and Slater tackles the guy on the 15-yard line on a kickoff. Please, come on. It can't happen.
If you think about the careers that Belichick has made, all right, not only do you see, first of all Patriot guys don't play offense or they don't play defense. They play offense and special teams, defense and special teams. That one kick you're talking about, right behind him was Hogan's
Exactly.
coming back from an injury, and he's running down the field on kick coverage team. McCourty is a guy who's a staple on it. Right. Duron Harmon. And Belichick has made a life out of these people Slater, Ebner. Troy Brown was one before he started.
Right. Teddy Bruschi.
Right. They all sit there and make their money on special teams. That is great to watch, and it's a big advantage.
Well, how do you carry a 10-year veteran on your special teams, and all he does is play special teams?
Yeah, well,
Slater's a 10-year veteran, right?
You sit there and watch the balls lay down outside the 5-yard line, and they're well worth it.
Okay, closing comments before we go to predictions. What do you think?
Again, it's the turnover battle. We got to win the turnover battle. We got to get the Patriots have to get ahead of Foles and not and have him play from behind. I think we want to see how he reacts to the pressure, the grand stage. Yeah, the Patriots, the Mystique, and I think something that you said, Dan. I think a lot of coaches do dumb things against Belichick because he makes them do dumb things.
True.
He's always a step ahead of everyone, so people think they have to run that trick play or do something different and not stick to the basics against the Patriots to try and beat them. So I think the turnover battles is so
And
big.
to harken back to the Seattle game, where Belichick is on the sideline looking at Pete Carroll, the clock's ticking down, and everybody around him saying, we call a timeout, we call a timeout, we call a timeout.
No, they'll overthink it.
No, he's going to
Bevel
run
just
the
got
clock
fired
down.
this year, by the way, too.
Who did?
Bevel, the offensive
Oh,
coordinator
yeah,
from
yes,
Seattle.
I saw that. Yeah.
3 years too late for them.
Robert?
Do your job. That's all I'm going to say. They have to do their job. You can't get cocky. You can't get this. You can't get that. But all this excitement that we're talking about, it's making me pumped. It's making me very pumped.
Well, thank God you won't be in the secondary, Robert.
I'll be brief as well. Intangibles. 25-minute halftime. All the hoopla building it up. Tom Brady has played more games in a Super Bowl than the entire Philadelphia roster combined. And that's going to be the thing. Can Philadelphia manage it? I don't think so. It's been 13 years, I think, since they've been there last. I think that's a big, big plus for the Patriots.
Right. 7 games, I think they have altogether. And Blount
7. And Brady's in his 8th.
Yeah. No, Blount and Jones.
Have
Blount
3.
and, not Jones. What's his name?
Long.
Howie Long.
Have
I always
3 of
forget that. Always forget that.
Chris
I don't
Long.
know if you've seen Marcus.
Long. Howie's kid.
Oh, he's
Howie's
dead.
kid. You ever seen Martellus Bennett? He's on one of the ESPN shows, and he's talking about how he went to the Packers this year, and he was, on the field in practice with Rodgers, and he said, come back to the huddle, and Rodgers said, well, how come you did that, that route? He said, well, I saw you, I thought you made a motion for me to do that route. And he said, well, and then Bennett's explaining, well, when you play with Tom's back there going, and this and that, and you know exactly what he's telling me, So it was really hilarious. But he closed out by saying, who's that kid, Howie's kid? He looks like Captain America. All right, predictions. We'll start with you.
35-21.
Ooh, I like it.
I'm going to go with history. I think it's going to be close all the way, and we're going to see something like 27-21 Patriots.
Really? Well, they still would cover the spread. The book is at what, 5 at the moment?
4. Down to 4.
4.
Because somebody put $500,000 on Philadelphia. The same guy who had the Houston Astros.
Yeah. Oh, really?
Yeah.
Same guy.
Dropped
Wow.
$500,000 on Philly at 4.5, I think it was.
Yeah, there was another guy who put a couple of multi-million-dollar bets on Philly.
I love it.
I love it too. Absolutely.
Well, very simple. My predictions is simple. First half, Brady gets edge rushed by Chris Long. He hits his thumb. It splits open. Blood gushing everywhere. He runs in the locker room. Alex Guerrero puts a magical salve on it. He goes back and throws for 5 touchdowns in the second half. Final score, Patriots 45, Philadelphia 13.
Spoken like a true homer.
They owe me nothing, Phil. The Patriots owe me nothing.
Nothing.
This has been
All gravy.
This is great.
House money. We're playing with
House
house
money.
money. at
That's
this
right,
point.
we are.
I just can't see a journeyman quarterback, Nick Foles, who I think was the number 3 pick in the draft.
Third round
Third round pick.
Same draft as Russell Wilson. They passed on Russell Wilson to take Nick Foles.
So look who we have in it. We have Case Keenums. We have Nick Foles. We have Blake Bortles. We have Marcus Mariota. And then we got Tom Brady, the GOAT, greatest of all time, who goes into a game 4 days hence of a 12-stitch gash on his throwing hand, and wins the AFC Championship. I don't think Philadelphia can withstand the grand stage, as you mentioned. I got it 35-14, which I just spoiler alert did earlier in the show. 35-14.
You could have changed it. Nobody would have known.
And the first time we're going to get some easy listening in the second half.
That would be nice.
There'll be
awesome.
There'll be
How much fun would that be?
Oh,
David Tyree holding a ball in his head with
Don't remind me.
an all-pro safety.
A 5'10" Ellis Hobbs on 6'5" Plaxico Burress.
Plaxico Burris in the end zone.
Really, it was like you won Manute Bowl for crying out loud, Rob. I mean,
Mario Manningham making
Over
a
Patrick
circus
Chung.
over after
Wearing-
what's
let's
his
see,
name
what
gets
number's
out
Chung
of the
now?
23.
So he was number 25 at the time. He wore a different number at the time.
How about Asante Samuel in the first game?
Oh, interception right in his hands.
Hit him in a bad place.
Yeah, you want
The hands.
Yeah. No, there were so many things you can talk about.
Oh,
It's been great,
unbelievable.
though.
Okay, well, that wraps it up for this edition. Hopefully, we'll have an edition next year, too, of B News Weekly Sports Hub Super Bowl 52 preview, Patriots versus Eagles. I'm Phil Gallagher, Dan Brothers, Mike Espejo, Robert Parris. Thank you for joining us. Go Patriots.